The news gang is back. Tonight, the Itumbi saga, the letter and the spirit of the Jubilee fallout. What haven't we heard yet? A WhatsApp group under investigation and its members are up in arms. And by the way, did someone say the DCI is now a member of Kieleweke group? Also on the show, who's bigger now, the National Assembly or the Senate? Who cares? The facts, the fiction, and we don't know what else. We also have the kicker, the memo, the punchline, the take, and of course the angle. But let's begin with this latest saga in Jubilee. Obviously a court case, Linus, but we've seen it take a rather interesting, albeit predictable political turn.
It's very interesting that it has come to this. It has come to even a political, or a court case where the court will be asked to decide who between the two, in terms of hierarchy, is senior. And you know, I blame the drafters of the Constitution of Kenya 2010. They really left it open to these impressions that are being created that the Senate is really not the upper house. The drafters of the Constitution did not state clearly that we have an upper and lower house. And this is because of the kind of conversations that were taking place in Naivasha during the negotiations for the writing of the new constitution. And at some point it was being, the discussion was around, should we go the South African route? And you know, the South African route, they have the House of Chiefs, which is a traditional house. Should that go there or not? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we actually will have this discussion about the supremacy battles, but it seems there is a rather different supremacy battle going on with the Itumbi letter and all these things that have been going on, and we see Kieleweke and Tanga. It doesn't seem, Gashuri, that we get tired of supremacy battles.
It was all predictable. I mean, the moment we saw this letter, whether fake or not, is at that point you could see the political inclinations in Jubilee. And this is symptomatic of what has been happening behind the scenes, that Jubilee is a divided house. It is no longer a secret, it's out there, number one. Number two, it was evidently going to get where we are. And I dare say it will become even worse as we move on. Why? Because the daggers are out now. What was being discussed behind the scenes, what was basically behind the curtains, is now open for everybody to see the contest, the bickering, the rivalry, the wrangling in Jubilee. Well, there's a legal matter that we may not go into for obvious reasons, but there's a political angle that we must discuss openly and clearly. I mean, look at what happened today. There were two news conferences, one at the courtroom and another one in Parliament. The Kieleweke team was in Bunge, the Tanga team was at the courtrooms. And basically, each insisting on its position. Those who identify with Dennis are arguing that, number one, don't look at the letter, investigate the content. So, but it's not possible to disengage the two. You cannot have this letter that is the subject of a discussion without the content. So if you were to investigate... Because
without the content, the letter is just a plain piece of paper.
Absolutely. Right? So investigate the two side by side. The content, were there plans to assassinate the deputy president as alleged? If yes, the country should be told yes. If no, then the country should be told no. And the authenticity of the letter, who authored it? Why? What was the motive? Maybe if we get that answer side by side, probably the country will move forward. But will we get those answers? I highly doubt.
Jamila, you're dying to jump in.
You know, you talk about the content of the letter, and what has been said around, I think, mostly today in one of the dailies, is that apparently the letter was not meant to go as far as it did. It was supposed to have been circulated. You know, the way we always circulate things on social media, on WhatsApp, and that was it. Because what was being claimed in the paper, in the letter, was so big and unimaginable that I don't think anyone would have taken it seriously. And then it took a life of its own, and it went as far as CSS being asked to appear to be questioned about it. And then now investigations that were done have shown that it actually generated from the office of the deputy president, although it said here that he had no idea about it. Because when the letter came to, when he found out about it, he went and told the president and the DCI and all that, and we had the CSS being summoned to go and record a statement, which they didn't because no one actually went and complained directly. But what I'd like to talk about is how now the DCI wants 256 members of a WhatsApp group to record a statement, because that is where the suspect now, who's Dennis Itumbi, shared the alleged assassination letter with in that group.
Allegedly so.
Allegedly so, exactly. That's what has been claimed.
Do we know who the group admin is?
We don't know who the group admin is.
Oh yes, because there were those rules against group admin.
Exactly,
right?
remember? And then this whole thing brings me now to another case about sharing things on social media that led to the arrest of blogger Robert Alai, and he was in for some time because he shared pictures of gruesome images of soldiers, which clearly would something that would not please a lot of people. So it talks to me about how
all these social media platforms becoming a big deal. But there is an interesting thing we are witnessing here, Yvonne, that we have a court case that is going on, which is before a properly constituted court.
Right.
But then you have another court actually going on outside
public
here.
opinion.
I'm not even sure it is public opinion, but maybe that's what they're aiming at. But it really is this Jubilee.
Or a cross-section of the public. And that is why, for me, unfortunately, for such a grave matter as plotting to assassinate not just any Kenyan, but the second in command, I do not think this court,
supposedly implicating people within
the very cabinet, you're right. This court case, for me, will not resolve this issue. In fact, neither will the investigations. The goalposts keep shifting, and this is a political thing. Remember, even with that press conference that you were talking about, was it Kimani Ichung'wah who said, well, you know, this is not even about cabinet ministers or cabinet secretaries.
Yeah, it's about
one cabinet secretary and one principal secretary. And then Oscar Sudi went on to say, you know, name them, you know, the cabinet secretary for Interior and his PS. But that is the sad thing for me, that, and I stand corrected, but I don't think anything much will come out of this court case or of the investigations. At some point, this will just sort of fizzle out, because what this is really, at the heart of this is a battle within Jubilee over succession, over 2022. And the grave matter then just, you know, gets lost in politics.
So who benefits, Linus, in this case? I mean, if this matter, it seems to me that there is this dogged determination to make this a political rather than a legal question properly before a court.
Now, look, about 2 hours ago, Kipchumba Murkomen, who is the senator for Elgeyo Marakwet, tweeted. I think it's a very cheeky tweet because he says, "My prayers and support are with my brother Itumbi. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Be strong." And guess what picture he uses? Dennis Itumbi with President Uhuru Kenyatta. I think Efumangi and Robert should be able to retrieve that and show that as we continue. But that's where I want to start, Joe, in terms of this issue of who we are calling on our tag tonight, online child soldiers. Because this is, you can't divorce this from its beginnings, which is 2012, when Itumbi came to the national limelight as a person who was supporting or was very active on the issue of the International Criminal Court, ICC, and he came out in strong support of both President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto. At the time, they were both in different political streams, URP and TNA. And those are the beginnings. That is where Itumbi finds his beginnings. And then, what contribution did he make? He, together with a big team of like-minded people, and you remember this is a team that ended up in the State House, really masterminded the online war and campaign for Jubilee, the Jubilee Alliance of URP and TNA. And they did this by introducing a new way of using propaganda. Propaganda has always been part of Kenyan politics, just as it is part of politics elsewhere, but they introduced the dark side of things, which plays to the emotions of the people. And they succeeded very, very well in creating the narrative that put URP and TNA together. What was the narrative? That separately you will hang, but together you will survive, because both Uhuru and Ruto were suspects.
Together or get hung separately.
Yes, exactly. And that was the narrative. It worked very well. It brought together the Ruto base and the Uhuru base, creating the Jubilee that then went on to contest the 2013 election. That is Itumbi. Very active online. The president, his deputy found him useful at the time. Then I want to skip the events of the first term. Everything was rosy for everybody. And even the commanders of the troops, that is President Kenyatta and his deputy, were really in good relations with, for the first term. Come the second term, and things have been changing. Starting last year, 2018, we all remember the incident around the social media handles of the president. That was really the statement that something has gone wrong. And just before that, you remember the tussle between Manoa Esipisu, now High Commissioner to the UK, and who was then the head of the Presidential Strategic Communication Unit, PSSCU. They were not in good terms with this team. That on one side there was Itumbi, I think Eric Ngeno, Munyori Buku, James Kinyua. These were younger guys than Esipisu, and they were driving basically an agenda to control the presidential communication. Now, social media, it's not in doubt that Dennis Itumbi and his team were completely in charge. They were completely in charge.
That's why I want Francis to jump in a little bit there, because Francis, what we are seeing now really is the culmination of something that began simmering even in the first term of the president and his deputy. In the first term, they were all rosy, holding hands and all that, wearing similar ties and all that. But then somewhere down the road, something happened to the communication unit, and the Itumbi team and Manoa Esipisu apparently were not seeing eye to eye. And so what we eventually saw, this team literally and physically leaving State House, was really the culmination of something that had been going on for a long time.
Sometimes there's what I call village wisdom. When a father and a mother are quarreling, and probably they are on the verge of a divorce, it is very easy to see the father come and beat up the children just to send a message to the mother. And vice versa, the mother will come and kick around sufurias and cups and plates.
And cats.
And kick cats around, just to send that message that it's not necessarily the cat that is on the wrong, but I want to send a message to the relevant persons. And this is probably what we are seeing in Jubilee, that the relationship is on the rocks is not in doubt. What you're seeing are symptoms of something that is really, really badly off. I mean, look at the calls for a parliamentary group meeting that has not been. Look at the clear divide in the party. There are now 3 factions. Team Wanjiku, the latest entrant, this Team Kieleweke, this Team Tangatanga, in the same house. You look at the backyard of the Jubilee Party, that's where the real high voltage politics is happening. And probably you would expect this is where a lot of harmony ought to be. Look at even the crisis that we are facing in Parliament, the supremacy wars between the National Assembly and the Senate. Who controls the majority in both houses? Jubilee. So who was to bring order into the House, into the administration? It is the ruling party, Jubilee. So even what we are seeing today in relation to Dennis and anything else that will come thereafter is as a result of this very fractured relationship in Jubilee.
And I think something you said, Gashwira, about them wanting a meeting, and it's not going to happen. In fact, the State House spokeswoman said that a Jubilee meeting at this moment is not a priority for the president, and she just said a couple of days back. But when you mentioned Itumbi, something interesting I think I'd wanted to say and I forgot is that after it came out that he was being suspected of allegedly having written this letter, officers at the DP's office were quick to clarify that Mr. Itumbi was not an official in their office, but that he's the State House digital director and has an office there. they say tu yeye anakuja tu kufanya kazi hapa hivi. So that sort of like makes you start thinking about amewachwa nje anyeshewe peke yake, what is going on, because this is something I think as I said earlier, they did not expect it to go as far as it did when this letter now was being sneaked in or being shared all over the social media, that you'd actually have people having to go to DCI to record statement about something like this.
Yeah, and I think the bigger picture here also is about how this party is run. Because at the heart of this is really, party wrangling. And as we've said, it's, sort of the coming together of so many political parties. They're yet to have a PG, like you were saying. That does not look like it'll happen anytime soon, because ideally the matters of disagreement would be something that would be handled within the party structures. But what are we hearing? All those members of the party structure, they're not interim, but they're not elected either. They were sort of, is it like a caretaker committee and then they would have their elections? Is it next year? But a lot of the issues that you are seeing coming up are so clear about a party that is at odds with itself, and that needs to happen. And this is why parties in this country are a special purpose vehicle. Jubilee Party coming together now from an alliance to a party had one purpose and one purpose only, which was to put President Uhuru Kenyatta and Deputy President William Ruto back in office for a second term. After that, it was done. And now they don't quite know what to do with themselves, which is why people run riot. An MP like, is it Kimani Ngunjiri, says one thing on the other end. You have Oscar Sudi on the other. You have the Kieleweke. This is unbecoming of a ruling party. And even when you have divisions like this, where a cabinet member or members are being accused of plotting to murder the deputy president, I mean, there's something very big here.
We will after we take a break, we'll actually look at, given everything that we have seen, is it really plausible that someone was trying to kill the deputy president, physically remove him from the scene? Linus knows that there's a terminology they use in French, like elimination physique. Yeah, so was it that, or was it just some political thing? And I think we'll take a break. One of the sources around the circles of Jubilee, but obviously not wanting to be quoted, saying, hey, you guys are giving too much credit to Itumbi. He was never involved in the propaganda, development and dissemination during the campaigns. No one ever wanted to come out to own the material and work done. He was more than happy to take ownership of the efforts. He has never been anywhere near the thinking and the planning team. But
what was that James Orengo said?
The way revolutions eat their own children. And by the way, Yvonne, I'm being reminded by Father Paul Otieno Onyango on Twitter. It's called Jakadawa. He's telling you that by the way, it's not about Kieleweke, Tangatanga, and Timwanjiku. There is also Team Embrace and Inua Mama. So we have 5 factions as we move on.
All of this within one political party.
I wonder actually whatever happened to Team Jubilee, Team Tuko Pamoja.
There's actually that Tuko Pamoja. I'm sorry I have to say this. Muhammad says, a house divided against itself will never stand. The Jubilee Party is divided right in the middle. The times of Tuko Pamoja, Turehamwe, and Kumira Kumira is long gone. Fare thee well, Jubilee. That's
all right, we will be Pamoja after this short break.